Hello, in this video, we want to continue from where we left in the last video. We are going to talk about the fundamental analysis, which is the bedrock of investment, right? So in the trading part, we were focused or obsessed with the price of a lot of these stocks. And we want to move away slightly because price is, again, I mean, it never disappears, but price is considered to be the conventional wisdom, under the conventional wisdom of everybody, right? It's the average of the consensus value of the company, right? But when it comes to, so for fundamental analysis to work and investment to work, we have to figure out a little bit longer time line, and we want to figure out what the value of this company is. Right, and value is slightly different from the price. I think I've said it earlier, but just to make it clear, price tend to be more random. It's more current. It's what market believes right now, the consensus, average consensus of that. Value, as opposed to that, is something that you can figure out, you can dig out. You can look at the company's fundamentals, which means the company's numbers, which means the company's who is running, what kind of strategy they are taking, what kind of product that they want to roll out in the future, what kind of bets they are making, right? What kind of risk that the company is taking. And anytime you look at that, you can, with certainty, I would say, you can figure out there are obviously risk factors that are involved. So for fundamental analysis, if I were to really simplify the fundamental analysis, there are two elements to it. One is growth, how quickly this company is likely to grow, and the other is risk. Anytime a company grows at a very high clip, it tends to build risk. They come along with it, right? So it's a balancing act between the two. High growth companies can also become high risk companies. Not always. There are exceptions, and the exceptions, you'll see them at the top of the list, right? The top companies in the world, they tend to be, they've figured out this formula, they've balanced it really well, they keep their risks really low, and they are growing at an exponential level. Anytime you can find that, that's a company to invest in. But the investment also, when you start investing, the first question that comes is, how long should I be invested in a stock? And that's a fair question. Things have really changed quite dramatically since I started looking at the market, right? It used to be 10 years. People used to hold it forever. But I think in today's scenario, when the market, the technology, the demand shifts quickly, rather quickly, and in the future, it's going to be happening at a much faster pace than, so 2, 3, 4 years is what I personally prefer. But really, it's up to you. And that's a very open question. But in general, I would say that's the time frame a lot of people like to invest. But if you're looking at the companies, if you have figured out a company that is going to be so big in the future, 10 years from now, they are in the beginning, you might want to bet on those companies again, right? So we'll talk about sectors and industries as we go along. But today I'm going to talk about probably, okay, there is a pretty interesting video about the Bruce Springsteen, who sold his work, his catalog, for $500 million. That's just coming in the videos. So we want to talk about Apple today, and we will talk about Apple again. And I'll probably put out a video about analyzing the case of Apple, what they've done, what they you can expect to be able. So with investment, as I said earlier, it's less about the sentiments. Market sentiments don't matter. You know, which was the key point we were focusing when we were looking at the trading. In case of investment, we looked for what are the fundamental strengths and weaknesses of the companies. And as I said, performance, the growth, there's no other number that defines growth as good as what's called earnings, right? Earnings are profit. So we can find them in the profile, in the financials, right? If you go in financials and you get the income statement, and I think I've shown it earlier, you expand it all and you can go down and you'll find the net income, right? Net income from continuing and distribute. So this is the most important number, which has a direct connection with the stock price increase or decrease. And over the long term, if we can figure out this company is going to make a lot more profit going forward, then that's a company that we want to invest in, right? That's a simple growth and how much, because net income is the only number that is connected to the stock price, right? We know it for sure. All the other numbers, they may not have that kind of a straightforward correlation. So this is a number we want to focus in, and not just we, I think the market likes to focus also, because everybody understands. And that's why whenever a company goes out with their earnings announcement, you will see what you can see in this chart on the right side of your screen. Earnings are so important, and this company is obviously beating all the expectations of the market, right? The average expectations of the market. So earnings you see here as EPS, which is earnings per share. What this number tells you is the total net income that we saw earlier. You divide that with the number of stocks that this company has is selling, right? Or which you can find here. If you go to the statistics, you find the shares outstanding. That's the number of stocks that are available, sometimes not available to buy and sell. That is, so there is a difference between float and shares outstanding. Float is the total number of stocks that one can buy and sell. At any point of time, they are available, they are floating in the market literally. Shares outstanding is the number of stocks that the company has issued, but they may not be in the market available. For instance, companies give out as part of the remuneration package of the employees, the stock options, right? So those options cannot be exercised right away, which means these are options which you can convert into a real stock. So they come under this shares outstanding, but they may not be available in the market, because many times you want to keep these employees. They have a time frame that, okay, you can exercise these options after 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. Companies decide about that, right? So you'll find in many cases, in case of Apple, there's slight difference, and that's basically which is about $200 million, which is basically the salary ESOPs, the stock options that the company has given out. In some cases, you will find it much bigger, the difference. So the shares outstanding is the number that we divide with anything when we want to talk, when we talk about per share, we take that number, we divide that with the shares outstanding. So when you look at EPS, the earnings per share, it's basically the profit divided by the number of shares outstanding. And what it tells us, this is the profit the company is earning for each stock, right? Which does not mean you have a right over it, but this is a profit. And the general assumption with the companies that have crossed the growth period as a company, right? And growth in terms of, and they become mature. As the companies mature, they tend to give out more dividends. And which means you can expect a part of this earnings per share to be coming your way. And that's one of the attractiveness of this number. And that's why anytime the company's EPS goes up on a regular clip, the investors, they rejoice, they are happy because they know this money would be coming my way. Now, the interesting thing is, so this is earnings per share is what goes under the PE ratio. We talked about it. So TTM refers to trailing 12 months, which means the last 12 months, right? So from today, in the last 12 months, the average earnings per share is 5.61. That's what it means, right? Now, earnings is not frequently updated. It's a number that's announced 4 times a year in most cases. In some countries, it's done twice a year, but US, it's 4 times a year. Japan also, it's 4 times a year. So every 3 months, we get a number. So we've got 4 numbers, and it's an average of that. The PE ratio, which I said in the last video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about. It's a ratio between this price, right? The stock price of Apple, if you divide that with the EPS, you get this number, right? So 172, you divide that by 5.61 and you get 30.71. That's the PE ratio. Now, there are a lot of people who'd like to take it very seriously. You don't have to take it too seriously, but this is a number to look at, to compare, right? When you compare a few companies, you can look at this number because it is agnostic in terms of how many stocks are floating or available in the market. It is not really, it doesn't care about it. It tells you about what the price tells you about the profitability of the company. So higher the PE ratio, that means the price is much higher than the earnings, the actual earning of the company. And that's where, so higher it goes, the companies the general and simplistic explanation is the stock is becoming more expensive. So if you see some company that has PE ratio of 50, 60, 70, and historically, if you go back, you'll find generally in the US market, the PE ratio tends to be, over a long period of time, it tends to be around 20, right? But there is no thumb rule in the new world, especially in the last 5-6 years, because the way companies have come in, especially the introduction of this one company that I'm going to show you, Tesla, we all know about it, that has redefined, that has changed everything. And you can look at the PE ratio, it's 10 times more than Apple, right? What's happening there? But you have to ask that question, why investors are fine. Apple, on the one hand, is heading towards $3 trillion valuation. First company that's going to do that, right? Why is Tesla valued so highly? So in the traditional world, this would be considered crazy. And even now I consider it crazy. And to give you a proper sense of what Tesla is, about a year ago or 7, 8, 9 months ago, the PE ratio of Tesla was about 1,000, right? Which was insane. We've never seen anything like that in the history of stock market. And that would beg the question, what Tesla is doing that is different from the traditional companies. And once we figure that out, then there is a story that some investors would buy, some investors would be skeptical. And we want to explore both sides. We don't want to be swayed by the over-optimism of the market towards Tesla and discount everything that tells us. So there are two stories at any point of time for a company. And it is your duty as an investor to explore both of those stories. If you just stick with your own echo chamber, you like a company and you tend to stick with your biases, you would end up as, I won't say you can still have success, but you would be less effective. So exploring the risk part, right? So that's what there's a growth story that everybody's cheering, and that growth story comes from their performance in terms of the earnings per share, right? You can have a historical number of the earnings of the company, how it has grown, and that number can give you a good sense of its past, but it may not translate into the future. That's the risky part, right? That's the risky element of the fundamental analysis. And in some cases, you can bring beta, but beta is not going so far in the future. It won't help you. It is, again, based on the accounting numbers, historical numbers, which means it is giving you the picture till this day, till today. You can say this is the beta, which means Tesla is twice more risky than the S&P 500. I'm assuming this is Google Finance does their regression using S&P 500. So 500 companies average beta is 1. And as compared to that, the Tesla's beta is 2. Now, that means it has high risk. But as we always know, I think anybody who's never studied economics or finance knows high risk brings high return. So if you were to look at a company that has a lower beta, that also means the company would not be growing that fast, right? So that's essential part there. But we'll see why the risk and where it's coming from. We will like to analyze beta a little bit more in a separate video at some point. So PE ratio, it is a very simplistic number, like I said, and it should not be taken as the one thumb rule that decides your investment. But this is a great place to start. This is the first step that you have to take in order to ascertain if it's a company, and if you know the company well, and that's what I always recommend. If you want to invest, those companies should be really well known. Unlike trading, right? Trading, you would not know that company before you place your trade. That's the first time you've heard that name, and that's also the last time perhaps, but not the case with investment, because you are invested literally, right? Which means you want to know everything possible about that company, and which means there are 1,000 things that you have to assess, and over a period of time you figure out which are the most important numbers that you want to focus on, because that gives you a peace of mind. And so yes, peace of mind is an element. Once you invest your money in, you should be forgetting the market. You should be forgetting what's happening today, right? You know the whole market is bleeding, and all the companies are performing, and this whole topsy-turvy, right? You are completely detached for it. If anything, you want to take advantage of these situations, what's happening now, the taper tantrum, the interest rate increase. There is a macroeconomic thing that's going on that people expected to happen. So you will see some weakness in the market, but would it actually destroy the market? I don't think so. And there are solid reasons to believe that, because people like you, young millennial investors or Gen Z investors, their numbers have just gone through the roof in every country. So that's a corona, sort of connected with the corona thing. People have been at home. In many countries, there were harsh lockdown. People couldn't leave and the house, and then they've developed this sort of interest, and they figured out very quickly that you can make quick buck. So that's happening on the trading side, but also a lot of them, they are actually not trader by their risk profile in terms of their attention span, because trading requires, whatever time you're trading, you actually have to be really quick, which means you spend time understanding the current movements of the market, not so much when you're investing. So we will go a little bit in the next video. I want to actually explore a little bit more of Apple and tell you what the big deal, why it's heading towards, perhaps we can decipher why it's heading towards $3 trillion valuation, and is it a trend that we will see a lot more companies heading towards? We'll talk about all that in the coming videos. Stay tuned.